Hi, my name is Chris Sugai from Niner Bikes, and I'm going to go over why 29-inch wheels are becoming so popular and why 29-inch wheels we feel give you a better ride experience over a 26-inch wheel bike. Obviously, the main difference is the circumference of the wheel. The larger wheel allows for a larger contact patch that's actually touching the ground. 29-inch wheel will have 30% greater contact patch over a 26-inch wheel. This greatly improves braking, cornering, and traction, climbing traction of the bike, which are three of the most important aspects of mountain bike riding. Another thing that's a little less understood is rolling resistance. A larger wheel with more contact patch on the ground actually has less rolling resistance than a smaller wheel with less contact patch on the ground. And while the 29-inch wheel will always be slightly heavier than a 26-inch wheel, you have to understand that the rolling resistance gains from a 29-inch wheel are so much greater than the weight advantage that it far outweighs the small weight gain penalty of a 29-inch wheel. So the first two revolutions of the wheel take a little bit more effort to get the wheel up to speed, but after that, physics come in. And there's a law of physics that says once an object is in motion, it takes the same amount of energy to spin a large wheel as it does a smaller wheel. So you're putting the same amount of energy once you get moving into moving a 29-inch wheel versus a 26-inch wheel, even though it's heavier. But the rolling resistance of a 29-inch wheel over sustained climb will mean that you get to point B at a much shorter time than you would on a 26-inch wheel because you're conserving so much more of your valuable energy getting to the top of the hill because you're not fighting the tire against the surface of the ground. Another huge advantage of a 29-inch wheel is braking surface. Again, when the tire is on the ground, you have a 30% larger tire contact patch on the ground, front and rear. When you combine those two together, when you're descending downhill and you're applying the brakes, the bike is going to stop much more confidently with much more authority. The one aspect of 29-inch wheels that is rarely understood is the philosophy of center of gravity. Now on a 26-inch wheel, these axles are 1.5 inches lower than they are on a 29-inch wheels. And you may be asking, why is that important? On a 26-inch wheel, where you have your axle points here, this is your center of gravity, and your crankset on this bike is about 12.5 inches off the ground, would be in the center point of this center of gravity. But on a 29-inch wheel, and this is critical, the axles are 1.5 inches higher off the ground. Now the crankset is the same height as it is as a 26-inch wheel bike, but this crankset center point is actually below the center of gravity of the two wheels, which means that your rider weight is now below the center axle line. And that's critical. When you're coming into a corner or a turn, the lower your body is to the ground in relationship to the wheels means that you will have better corner stability and you'll have better traction. If you think about a 4x4 or a Porsche Carrera, which one's going to handle a turn better?